Good evening, everyone, once again. So we'll just do a quick reread of that first paragraph and the questions that we're just considering. So it reads, in the construction of buildings, whether for public purposes or as dwellings, care should be taken to provide for good ventilation and plenty of sunlight. Churches and schoolrooms are often faulty in this respect. Neglect of proper ventilation is responsible for much of the drowsiness and dullness that destroy the effect of many a sermon and make the teacher's work toilsome and ineffective. So far as possible, all buildings intended for human habitation should be placed on high, well-drained ground. This will ensure a dry site. This matter is often too lightly regarded. Continuous ill health, serious diseases, and many deaths result from the dampness and malaria of low-lying, ill-drained situations. So we were asking the questions, why is it important to have good ventilation and sunlight in churches and schoolrooms? And we're also partly answering the second question of how does neglecting proper ventilation affect sermons and teaching? Saying that without the sunlight, you're lacking the vitamin D to kind of keep a good, upbeat mood in the room. Even an interesting sermon can be made less interesting to the listener if the environment is not well lit and nicely ventilated, able to keep us sort of awake and aware. You need some airflow. The twins also made a very good point that sunlight kills bacteria, so you need that exposure to the sun. And generally the temperature as well with the ventilation, because if you've got a room full of people, more bodies, it gets stuffy, you start to feel drowsy, and at that point you're not listening effectively, even though you want to, you can't help it because it's just the way your body is working in that environment. So good ventilation to keep us awake and alert, keep the temperature down, and the sunlight is there to lift the mood and also fight off bacteria.
Yep. One of the next few questions that came up were about the ill-drained areas and why it's important for us to build on places that are in, sorry. So it says here, what are the potential problems if buildings are constructed in low-lying, ill-drained areas? So what could be some of the issues that you would have? Well, part of me thinks that that it's prone to flooding, that the levels of ground are going to be unlevel. Wow. I could have said that so much better.
Not a solid foundation.
Yes, your foundation is not solid. And to build on something like that just makes, in my eyes, it wouldn't make any sense. And it seems Ellen G. White also agrees that it's not viable to build on a land that is not strong enough for you to have a church. And in it goes on to talk more about how if you are to build on those lands, that you are more prone to disease, prone to the problems that lie with cold, wet, damp places. Does anyone have any comments on these first two paragraphs? Anything that they would like to discuss? Yes.
Yes, we, when we was children, our parents bought a house which had been flooded when they moved to Northampton. Didn't know it had, but how you knew it was, round halfway down the walls there was like boards all the way around the room. And since our granddad saw it, so this area flooded, and that's how you know if you bought a house where it's all been flooded. It was like be halfway with half in on the downstairs, and the plugs. The sockets, yeah, yeah, and they didn't know, but it had been flooded. This was in St James End by the river, near the river, and
And it's also they've built on many floodplains.
Yeah,
all six fields.
Yeah, all six fields is floodplain in Northampton. They've just built on them, so
Water finds its lowest level,
and you find the houses are damp. And if they've got floorboards, and the floorboards are not good either, the joists, and when you do get flooded, it's not just rainwater, it's the storage, everything that comes in, and it's not good. Then we moved to Far Cotton a few years later, and in Euston Road, which was behind the main road, St Leonard's Road, for those who know Northampton. And it rained, and they built another estate called Bry Hill, and they'd let all the drains come from Bry Hill into the St Leonard's Road area, into the Far Cotton area. And so when it rained, they didn't take the water, and everything was flooded. And this was on a Sabbath, and we could see the front, all the houses round us were flooded apart from ours and four others. It was like a little island in the middle. The pastor came down. He was going to help us lift our furniture if we needed, and it came through the back gate. We got a short garden up to the first barn, flooded that. Up to the second barn, flooded that. And we was praying. It came to the back door. It was a high step. Came back to the back door, and it went back. Praise the Lord. So there was three of the houses didn't get flooded in the whole area. So the Lord blessed us there. But if a house is flooded, it's a long job to get it right again, if you can.
I can actually confirm I used to work in flood and insurance, and the issue of trying to fix the things that go wrong there, and how long it takes just to get the right action taken, even like immediately after the event has happened. It's a long process, and it's not a fun process at all. I do see another hand up. If another person wants to comment.
Yes, it's Arlene.
Oh, hi, Auntie. Sorry.
Hi, darling, you okay? Yes, I was just thinking that the dampness in a home or church or wherever, it builds up mold as well. Yeah, and it's one that damages lungs, people's lungs, and you know, um, the effect that it does have is long term. It's ventilation is one of the biggest thing that any house, and they do say that ventilate, you should always have crack your window open, always have some air going through your home, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, the window must be cracked open, because when that mold starts growing, that fungus start growing inside of you as well. So that does have an impact on your health. And as it says, it causes serious diseases and many deaths. Yeah, and this is one of the things that I've got lung disease, yes, and one of the things that does trigger off your state is mold. Mold is a dangerous thing, and if it's not cleaned, or if it's not dealt with, your health do deteriorate very, very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. That's a really valuable point as well, because especially it reminded me a little bit of there's something called gout, which I'm sure can be made worse. It's like joint pain, some sort of arthritis that can be made worse in cold weather climates and damp climates as well. So in addition to the mold, you've got the physical problems that come with it as well. Dr. Twin, has seen a hand up?
Yeah, so it was another house we lived in. It was a country house. It was stone, about 2 foot thick walls. But in winter, there was water on the walls, and if you there was no central heating. It was about 600 years old. This house was, and when you took your clothes out of the drawers, if you put them in front of the fire to air, they'd steam. You've got all that. If you haven't got any proper heating in your home, in living in a cold country like this is most of the year, you've got to watch the clothes that they're not damp, because you put damp clothes on, you're going to have some problems. You've got to make sure all your clothes are aired. I can remember that, it was awful. You know, you could you could put your hand on the wall. They were like distemper walls, weren't in those days.
Yeah.
And you put your hand on, it come off wet. And I suppose that was condensation
From your breath.
From your breath, it's bedrooms and that, you know. And yeah, it's not pleasant.
Because you can only heat one, years ago, you'd only heat one room at once.
Well, they didn't have fireplace in those rooms, you know. It was fireplace, and you have a fireplace in the. Your kitchen was warm. You got the cooker, and then you got the one room in the fire in the in the living room, and the rest of the house was freezing. You know, you don't put your feet down in the bed; it was that cold.
You used to have a hot water bottle.
Till they burst.
A lot of really important points there. Especially, it reminded me that actually, when I've been quite sick so far, you know, you wake up and the room just feels humid because obviously, yeah, you're coughing all this sort of hot air out, and you know, you do get to the point where the windows are full of condensation a little bit, and we could even add to maybe the list not just our ventilation, but maybe just having a good set of double glazed windows would be nice. Ren and Anne, what would you like to say?
I want to say, when building, first of all, if you're building in a lowland, you need to have proper drainage. Must have proper drainage system before you can able to start building. If not, you're gonna have loads of problem. One of the problems you're gonna have is flooding, or you would have rising damp. When you're having rising damp, it come up from the bottom. It soak in the foundation, and it rise up into all the walls, and that is why you would get mold, you would get condensation, and all of that. If you don't have proper ventilation system in the house, so then you're gonna have big problem. Eventually, what you're gonna have to do with that house, most of the time, is spend a lot of money on damp proofing. Put a damp barrier under the blocks or bricks or whatever you have there to stop that damp rising. So first of all, you must make sure that you have proper drainage and you set up proper barrier to stop the rising damp, or else you're gonna have problems with that house till you would get fed up, and the best thing to do is knock it down. That's it.
Very valuable input from a tradesman there. And actually, one of our next questions we were going to ask is all about how can architects and builders balance the needs for ventilation and sunlight in the design, but especially with what you're mentioning, the rise in damp and having that barrier, something that architects really have to take into account. It's very valuable knowing someone in our church knows this. Twins again. So thank you for that. Twins again. What else would you like to add?
No, we're reminiscing again. We've lived in a house. Brother Elder Caesar said we've lived in a house where it had to have a damp course, and they drill holes and they put stuff in between the walls because you've got double brick
Cavity, yeah.
Yeah, cavity walling, and we've had all that, and yeah.
We lived in 3 houses that really weren't fit to live in.
No, well, one of them was condemned. We know that, and yeah, we've.
But the stone house, I've heard you can't do it.
Yeah, because there's no cavity wall; it's just stone, isn't it? So
There must be some answer
if the
to
stones are porous, it's just going to come through.
And then you get the rodents.
Yeah, the rodents come in, and if you got Georgia rotting in your floorboards because it's all damp. We've had all that. We've lived through that.
I'm both grateful for the knowledge you have of this, but also very sorry that you're going through this. This is quite a traumatic thing. It seems that these things are not taken into consideration when they should be.
It's tough as up.
But you get by, and by God's grace.
Yeah.
We are going to have a look at our next section of Adventist Home of chapter 22. Abby, if you could read for me, that'd be wonderful.
In the buildings of houses, it is especially important to secure thorough ventilation and plenty of sunlight. Let there be a current of air and an abundance of light in every room in the house. Sleeping rooms should be arranged as to have free circulation of air day and night. No room, sorry, no room is fit to be occupied as a sleeping room unless it can be thrown upon daily to the air and sunshine. In most countries, bedrooms need to be supplied with conveniences for heat, that they may be thoroughly warmed and dried in cold and wet winter. Oh, weather, I'm sorry. The guest chambers should have equal care with the rooms intended for constant use. Like the other bedrooms, it should have air and sunshine and should be provided with some means of heating to dry out the dampness that always accumulates in a room not in constant use. Whoever sleeps in a sunshineless room or occupies a bed that has not been thoroughly dried and aired does so at the risk of health and often of life. Those who have aged to provide for those who have the age to provide for should remember that these especially need warm, comfortable rooms. Vigor declines as years advance, leaving less vitality with which to resist unhealthful influences. Hence, the greater necessities for the aged to have plenty of sunlight and pure air.
So that was 3 paragraphs there, and to sort of reflect on these ones, we've got a question that I'll put into the chat now so you all can see. I'll do the first 3.
The first one is very similar to what we've been asking throughout, so we probably won't ask
Oh, okay, yeah.
that one. But we'll put the 2 questions that we do have, and we'll keep going through this list together. Yep, so you've sent that. So the first question is, what are the specific requirements mentioned for sleeping rooms to ensure a free circulation of air day and night? So what do you need to do? What do you need to have in a room to ensure that you have a good circulation of air and light? Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't figure out what the word light was.
We have Lexi here with us. Go on.
A window that can preferably open.
Yep. So every room essentially needs a window. Yeah, it should be able to open even just a little bit. Earlier, Auntie Arlene was saying that it should be cracked open, even a crack. So it doesn't need to be open fully all the way. It just needs to be able to go a little bit. I remember a long time ago having houses where it had like a little latch and you'd push it and fix it in a certain level, like there was 3 holes. I'm showing my age a little bit now, but they were good. I saw Tuckley Twins' hand go up first, and then we'll go to Ren and Anne.
We had sash cord windows.
Where you pull them up and down, they're on string, and then the sash cord breaks, and your window's wonky, and it's bringing all back these memories, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It's a
Horrors
window
of
survived.
childhood. It's a
Yeah.
window we survived what we
But
went through.
we didn't. It didn't bother us, you know.
No, it was
that was life. Everybody was like that.
Yeah,
Most people.
Nice, you know, working class. That was it. That's what you had. And yeah, you need windows open. A little crack if it's cold, but you need ventilation. Even now we have the windows open just slightly, so you get some fresh air.
And you need some form of heating in the bedrooms, which we never had when we were kids.
No, we didn't have no.
But you was used to it.
Yeah, you had to toughen up.
I think what you've described, the windows that are on like a cord either side, we've actually got those in our flat currently.
Oh,
So
right.
the memory lane for you is my present life.
Are they like waxed ones? They wax them, don't they? And it's like a thick cord, and it's waxed, and they're on kind of runners, and you push them
lift it up.
lift them up, push
Yeah.
them down.
Yeah, we have got those. I think they have leveled up slightly. They've got a sort of makeshift chain going on rather than cloth, but it's definitely the exact same mechanism we're talking about.
Yeah, I can remember a woman
Well, some of them were
opposite.
down to in case
Yeah.
they fell out.
Yeah, a woman opposite. She used to wash that. She used to clean the windows upstairs, and she'd got her feet in the bedroom, and she'd sit on the windowsill, and she'd push them up, and she's got her back in the street, cleaning all these windows. What she used to do, I don't know. She did it, But that's how it was.
Mm,
Yeah, memory lane.
yeah.
Character building, I think we call that.
Yeah,
It is,
Harry,
yeah.
Harry's getting us toughen us up for the last days. We've done our apprenticeship.
There you go.
I did at a young age.
Thank you so much, twins. Ren and Anne, what else can you add?
Events.
Alexia make a good point with windows. Windows to create lighting,
And things
also
like
to
that.
vent. I think a lot of people make a lot of mistake these days. What they do, on the outside of every home, they have these brick that have holes in them. They call them ventilation bricks, and it come right through the building, right into your home. Then on the inside, you probably would see a hole there, or like a mesh to let air in and out of there. And what many people would do, they would block them out. Sometimes they would have people to come and re-skim the walls, and they would block them off from the inside. And that is what just create a lot of problem eventually, because when you don't have that circulation of air in the room, it causes damp.
Yeah, but you still have to, because I know at some of our developments, when you leave that hole you're talking about that the builders originally built, birds start going in the cavities of the wall.
Mm.
So now they have to mesh them off.
No,
Those little holes in the block.
No, the blocks on the outside, they have the brickwork have holes, small holes, so birds can't go through there. But some people that block it off from outside and they block it off from the inside, and that is what cause a lot of problem, cause damp, condensation, mold.
But you don't know that birds are gonna get in.
And if you look on the outside of the building, our house here, you're gonna see they have some brick vent, and birds can't get in from there unless there's a different one they have in your.
The ones that
place.
at those developments
Yeah.
they get in and they
But they're not.
they tell them they're there for ventilation, but people said no because birds are going in.
Yeah, the hole is not supposed to be that big so that birds can get in. It should be small. So so that's what the mistake a lot of people make, because why? They have the heating and the thing that thing there now is causing cold air to come in and messing up with the heating. So they block it off, but it is a mistake. You must leave it open so that you can get a circulation of air. Thank you.
This is what happens when someone from property management talks to a tradesman. You have different perspectives on the same thing, and it actually starts to answer another question that was going to come up, which was, can you think of a situation where these principles mentioned are not followed in modern house construction? Now, some people may be concerned for whatever reason, the hole is there, and there may be changes in design or change into the person's wants or supposed needs. So we see how modern architecture may go against some of this thing. They may not consider it because there's a different angle that they're chasing instead. But as this book is highlighting, regardless of what maybe the modern technology is saying, there are certain things that have to be adhered to at the basic level. Sort of a foundation, not to call back to the foundation as the well-drained land again. So that kind of answers that section as well. Is there a question here we can use instead? Oh, sorry, I see the Tuck twins have their hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, I remember what Elder Caesar was saying. I remember those air bricks. They're about the holes should be about big as a 5-penny piece, shouldn't they? Something like that. I can remember them having them in our houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had them low down, and if they were blocked up, then you would get damp and everything because you've got no air circulation. But I've seen.
I remember we lived in we had in a house and it had a pantry, but the pantry was only made of single brick.
Yeah.
And they put the damp thing on the wall and it went off the.
It went off the scale. But yeah, I mean, to where you're going to keep your food, they made it single brick, and the shed was next to it as part of the.
Yeah.
And it was all single brick, and you're supposed to keep your food in there. You couldn't keep your food in there.
But praise the Lord, we never had cockroaches.
No, praise the Lord, we didn't have those.
When you think about the kind of conditions that people have to live in and had once lived
Had to
in,
go through before now.
yeah, you start.
Charles Dickens time, I'll tell you.
It's incredible to know that although you had gone through all of those conditions, you are still quite well now, and that you are pushing through. And as you said, you've done your apprenticeship in survival, basically. So you're ready for those end times, which is amazing to hear. So we'll keep going, we'll keep proceeding with questions. And one of the questions that we want to ask is relating to, oh, Thomas is excited to press send. You can press send.
Sorry, I didn't realize. I didn't know if you can say it or not.
So we've sent it in the chat if you can look at that again. And it's, how does the need for a warm, comfortable room differ for aged? As mentioned in the paragraphs, what factors make the sunlight and fresh, pure air particularly crucial for the elderly? I think about the days when Alexia and I used to work in care, and if anyone has ever gone into a care home, what's it like when you go in there? Is it cold?
No, very, very warm.
I would call it
Hotter
a
than-
furnace.
It's
really.
stifling sometimes.
Yes, exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think about it quite often. When I read that, my brain went, remember when you were in a care home and it's like you walk in there and straight away you start sweating. But to them, it's a reasonable temperature. It's actually the right temperature for them. And as you begin to
Age.
wow, sorry. As you begin to age, it becomes more necessary for you to be warm in warmer environments because your body does not quite regulate heat the way that it used to. So if you would like to go through that with me, why is it important to have a warm, comfortable room with fresh and pure air?
I'd like to add a little bit, just like I said about the gout. So certain arthritis is really badly affected by the cold. So yeah, that's probably why it's so warm, because at that point they're not at risk of the discomfort that comes with that colder environment. Even myself as a younger and slightly less addled with injury, I still find in the cold weather my knees can just hurt. It just, cold is not nice. So imagine an older person who's got these ailments, that they're really going to need to look after themselves and be in a good supportive environment that helps them. But that's just me. So if there's anyone else who'd like to add, or we can look at our second question in the chat, but I'm not seeing any hands up. Lexi?
If you have a well-ventilated room or all of the lights, ventilation, everything is sorted out properly, it can prevent lung disorders, it can prevent breathing issues as well.
Yeah.
If you've got a flu and cold, it can help you get better a lot quicker as well, because it can stop your congestion and buildup of mucus and other stuff from staying inside your chest or staying inside your nasal cavity. So I think it's mainly to do with your respiratory system. It helps to actually help your white blood cells and other stuff fight off other diseases a lot easier than if it was a really hot thermal place without any form of ventilation, because it will just make it worse because you're allowing more bacteria to still come inside of you and grow.
I think, because it's the natural fresh air you need. You don't need an artificial and condensed or oversaturated environment. You need it to be as natural and helpful as possible, because we know that's what we need to be healthy. So therefore, it's probably going to help us get better as well.
And that was our natural state in the beginning anyway.
There
We
you
didn't have buildings to live in or anything. We actually just had open air where we could live, thrive, and actually learn how to manage ourselves and our health. I think something that's just crossed my mind as well is when I thought about the pure air and things like that. Earlier on, Thomas, you had said about when you're not feeling well and you wake up in the morning after a night full of coughing and, sleeping, you breathe it out, hot air everywhere. The room feels so stuffy. And I thought about the moment you start feeling well. And it's like the whole house just smells of sickness, doesn't it? It smells like you've not been well. And I think I've got mum's voice ringing in my ear, clean up the place has to be clean. You're not feeling well, you're feeling better now, clean. And that's where my head is as well. I think about the fact that when you're not feeling well, when your environment isn't in a sanitary state, when the air around you feels like heavy with sickness, how do you expect to get any better? You have to open your windows, you have to let air come in and out, you have to make sure your space is clear, your space is in a way that promotes the ventilation that you need. So that's something that I thought about there as well. Why is it so important to have that good condition? It's because your health will deteriorate otherwise. If you don't look after to the environment that you're in, sorry, how can you expect to get better?
Yeah.
Auntie
Auntie
Janine?
Yes, talking about air, and also being in a church, because there's a lot of people in the church, elderly people in the church, and when there's a lot of bodies together, it does give off a lot of heat. Now, in churches, they have that artificial thing going up and down, going in the room, spinning in the room. That does nothing. Just make all the whatever air it is, the stale air goes round and round and round. Now there's people, the sitting by the window, and some people don't like the cold air. Some people don't like the window open. So I don't know what do you do in that situation, because some people are getting sick because of not getting enough air. Some people are getting cold. I mean, obviously you can't please everyone, but what do you do in that situation when, especially when there's elderly people there that, needs this air, or whatever. Thank you.
I think in answer to your question, and maybe this is me being having a lack of sensitivity, but if you are going to sit at the back and you're going to sit near the windows, which have to be open because people do want that ventilation, you have to be prepared for whatever the weather is going to bring. Whether that be you're sat there at that window and it's cold, you better put on that jacket, baby.
I agree with you. I do agree with that. But you still have to be mindful of another person sitting next to you. I don't know what it is that you can do to make another person, I don't know, they should move actually, not sit there by the window. I don't know. But that ventilator, that artificial thing that goes round and round, for me, I don't think it's any good in a church with so many bodies, so many people, and just keep going round and round. It's like it's just the stale air is just going round and round, and it's not even doing anything. It's not even making a difference in the air. I don't know. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Auntie. Unfortunately, I won't really have an answer to that and about what should be done. I guess it's up to everyone what they do going forward and kind of what we have at our disposal to support with that ventilation, whether that be I'm unfortunately I don't know too much about that topic.
It's all right, darling.
Thanks. Mum and Dad, your hands up.
I think the system what they have is pretty good, especially in our church. What they have, the windows on one side, and as the air come from outside through those windows, they put that fan on, and what they do, it helps the air circulates. It circulates it around instead of just going in and just moving around. It with the fan on now, it carry that air around the whole building in so it is a good system that they have, where it's just for them to have that thing working properly. Because most of the time they have the air going upward instead of have it coming down. So it does work. The fan and the window, it does help out a lot.
So what you're saying is that the fan is just going the wrong way and not moving the air around.
Yeah, most of the time that's how they have it. They have it where it's spinning, where the air is going up on the ceiling instead of it bringing it down and circling it around. It just circling it in the air instead of on the ground.
Okay, so that's the problem then.
Yeah, that's the problem. They have it turning the wrong way.
Thank you.
Oh, crikey. Thank you so much for the input there. I think did I just see someone unmute as well for input there? I'm not sure. Is it Bianca? Perhaps not. So I just want to look at the second question in that sort of considering the importance of sunlight and fresh air for health, how can individuals, families, and communities promote these principles in their living spaces? I mean, we just had a nice bit of information there that there is a certain way the fans should be spinning to be making the most use of this. So how can we either on our own, together, and in the wider community promote this so that even at our own homes, we're actually living in the best environment for us, and then also at church, it's at the right temperament or climate for us as well. So what can we do to promote these? Sorry.
Sorry. I just think it's about educating people, about making them aware of kind of the health benefits of having that sunlight come in, the fresh air circulating around, and how I think that's really it more than anything. It's about the knowledge. If we pass on how important it is and how it can change lives ultimately, there's no reason why people wouldn't listen.
Something that's just sort of triggered in a good way within me is I'm really big on exercise and health benefits of that outside. But then maybe we should also look at in tandem with it when you think about recovery. And part of your recovery is what you do in your inactive time. So that can be when you're sat down at home, obviously when you're sat in church listening to a sermon. So yeah, the awareness and education needs to be there, not just for how to be healthy in your body, but how to keep the body healthy all year round for different climate and stuff.
Yep.
So, has anyone else got anything they would like to add regarding the importance of promoting this? Okay, it seems that perhaps not on that topic. So I think the best thing is for us to conclude here. We actually had a really meaningful points and good conversation from this. I've been really happy with the engagement. So I thoroughly look forward to continuing this next week.
Following his resounding victory over the Caledonians.
Is there any kind? I forget if there's announcements for.
Oh no, there's a following program after.
Oh, okay.
So we will conclude here, but thank you all for joining us. We will next week move on to avoid lowlands and the further topics after that. So can I ask the twins if they would like to take over from here?
We'd like to thank you for it's been interesting. With
yeah.
was it Memory Lane?
Memory lane.
Not all good. Yes, thank you for taking it, Brother Thomas and Sister Abigale. Yes, thank you. We're going to hand over now. Is it Sister Judy doing the half night prayer? I believe.
Just pull that for me, please. Good evening, everyone. Sister Shami, you can take over.
Better stop this recording and then we'll start the next one.
Okay.
With it.